or Elon Musk would donate $1 million to random people to vote in the like. This is getting like get that money in the elections. Elon Musk being able to donate $1 million to registered voters, persuading them essentially to vote Republican. I'm like, shit like this is dangerous. We are now
get the money out of here. Get the money out of politics.
Yep. And that's where I think it's dangerous in the left. If we don't focus on that, I know we outspend.
That's what rich people do. Rich people can't vote, right? I mean, they vote once, but by definition, rich folks are a small percentage of the population. So they're not going to win any elections with their vote. But what they do is like, okay, I got to use my money and put my money to work.
Right.
And if you don't regulate that, then you do end up with a situation where rich folks just, put their finger on the scale. I mean, I wouldn't say they control everything, but they put their finger on the scale. And then how much weight they can put on the scale depends on how regulated they are.
Right. And that's where it's just like, right now, there's not a lot of money in there, but I think you could have like the Koch brothers, and you can have Elon Musk. Like, there's a lot of money that could come out of nowhere. There's a lot of money that could come out of nowhere.
Another thing, people tend to think, oh, well, especially on the conservatives, like all the big industries and stuff is all left. It's like, no, it's not, man. Rich folks tend to be conservative. Like, absolutely, you start getting into these nice neighborhoods, high tax brackets and stuff. They make a lot of money. They don't want to pay a lot of taxes. They're like, look,
they want that money back.
Yeah, I'm conservative now. We got to protect this.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's dangerous. That is dangerous, and it's just like I'm seeing us slow walk into more money going into our elections, creating distrust. And I'm like, you got Elon giving out these $1 million. I don't even know what you call it.
Speaking of Elon, I know you used to be a big fan of Elon. And now he's been going a different direction. But let's hear him out. Why is Elon the way he is? And it's our fault. It's the woke mind virus, as he would say, right? So it's like it's us pushing people like Elon into Trump's camp, and that's why I say the only thing we can control is us. If we can get ourselves together, hopefully we stop making more Elon Musks.
I mean, but you're right. But and the destruction of Elon, I think, is a whole. I mean, that could be a whole video. If I'm being honest, with Elon, you're right. I think he would attribute the woke mind virus to his reasoning for leaving the center and like going extreme. And I think he would. I think, if I'm being honest, I think his biggest reason for that would be his son.
Yes, because in his mind, he's like, I lost my son. Right. And he's like, if you take my son from me, whatever it is, I'm coming. Yeah. Right. And that's his mind state.
He was like, this ideology destroyed my son. My son is dead. He's taking these hormones. He'll likely not be able to have children anymore. It's like, effectively, my son is dead. And I think, like, when you make statements like that, number one, this is when the left harshly came against him when he made statements like that. And
I think he's not the only Republican that's worried about his kids, though. And like that's another thing that is not going in our favor.
Right. And now, but that's the thing. Like, if I'm being honest, I think that's something that the left has to battle out, because I think your center left, well, everybody on the left isn't for giving children hormones. I'm an example of that. And it's just like, And so it's just like, I think the left is doing a bad job of understanding its base. I think the left is, in a way, they're doing the same thing where they're
trying to keep everybody happy, and then that gives Republicans ammunition.
Absolutely, because it's just like, that is what made Elon Musk extreme, hands down. He was like, this ideology destroyed my son. This is so dangerous. If it can happen to me, it can be done to anyone. This has to be stopped at all costs. And it's just like, this is something that's dangerous. This is more dangerous than looking at economics. This is more dangerous than
Donald Trump to them.
Donald Trump. Yep. Yes. This is something that needs to be fought.
While we're talking about saying, hey, look at Trump, Elon looking at his daughter.
Right.
Son, right. Exactly. He's like, nah. No.
That's what made him extreme. Now, I will say his response to that has been over it's an overreaction, and I think it's consumed him, and I
To me,
think there's
you can't blame. Like, here's the thing, right? I think he's doing what a lot of parents do,
absolutely
which is over, you know, over trying to protect him. Like to me, like that's weakness and it's disrespect to say like, oh well, it's the woke mind virus that got my son. Like, no, your son just did that.
right,
Like you trying to blame something else. Like
something right,
that's who he is, right?
right.
Look, he had plenty of opportunity. Anybody that's like, oh well, it was the media that made me gay. It was the media that made me trans. It's like, you know how much straight stuff you see in the media?
Right.
Almost everything is straight. Almost everything you see, like 9 out of 10 relationships, couples is going to be straight. Almost everything. If the 1 to 2 times you saw something gay
And
made you
you
gay,
like
it's
it.
like it ain't because of the media. Like that's
Right.
you. That is
Right.
straight up you. And even
Right.
Elon said like his son was gay. Like he knew his son was gay earlier before he was trans. He knew his son was gay, but at least he was still admitting he was a boy. So it's like you can blame society if you want to, but it's you is what it is. Don't
Right.
blame society. It's you.
Right. You're absolutely right. And that's where to me Elon is overreacting. And that's where I think it's this is where he needs to be like he would have to have a group of people or like a friend is to be honest with you. And I don't think in his position, being that he's the one of the richest, if not the richest man on the planet at any given time, it's going to be hard to have people around you that are going to give you constructive criticism. Like, you know what I mean? A friend that's actually going to be there, that's not self-interested, that's going to be like, I understand what you're doing. But like when you have that, when you are literally the richest man in the world, it's in everyone's interest to make sure that you're happy or condone your actions. And I think someone hasn't let him know that like if you would have a conversation with yourself from 10 years ago, you would be in awe of the person that you are right now. You would be completely disgusted. Like you would look at yourself as a failure. And no one is letting
Well,
him know
I
that.
don't want to hold Elon to some high standard. Like I feel like a lot of people do, but I just treat him like a normal dad, and that happens to his son, and he's like, I like
He's
that'll hit you.
overreacting.
That'll hit you though.
And I mean
That'll
it
hit
will
you.
hit you, but
And
he's overreacting.
so what I'm saying is I'm not trying to hold him to some like, hey, you're supposed to be super smart or whatever. Like think about your principles. I'm just like he's a dad. He's not happy with what happened with his son, and now that's changed. That's changed his politics. That's changed his worldview.
But when you
And
make
made him
such a
basically a single issue voter. At that
you're
point.
right, but that's extreme. That's extreme. If I
Yeah, but
ever
I don't think he would regret it though. Like I feel like you're saying like, oh, well, like the old you would frown upon that. But like, no, the old him, if you're saying if he sees the thing he's doing, he wouldn't be happy about it. But if he saw a picture of his son, he wouldn't be happy about that either, right?
I think there's a there's a piece of me that's assuming reason
Yeah.
with
Don't
his
assume reason.
previous
Don't assume reason.
with his previous and I get you, but like I to me again, it's just like you prefaced before, I had a strong affinity for Elon. Like I thought he was reasonable. I thought that before he made this turn, I would say in the last 4 years, 3 to 4 years, I thought he was reasonable. I mean, politically, he was center. He was really center left. And it's just like when you make a switch like that from center left all the way to the right,
When
that's
I'm
a
saying
big
he's more of a dad than he is reasonable. That's what I'm saying. Like, don't treat him like he's a bash in the reason. Treat him like he's a dad, and that explains his behavior. That
I mean,
explains his behavior perfectly.
but it's an overreaction, is what I'm saying. Like even though
It
he's a
is
dad, it's
overreaction,
just
but
like,
people overreact. And that's what
but
I'm
right,
saying. Don't hold Elon to any higher standard than you would hold anybody else, is what I'm saying.
but I'm saying
Because he's proving
if
that he's like everybody else.
but if I know your history, it would be like the same thing for you. If I know your history, I know who you are. You're center left. I know and I know what you represent. I know your morals. If you were to have an extreme event in your life occur, and all of a sudden it pushed you drastically to the right, I would say number one, whatever event that it was, that had to be extremely traumatic. Like number two, is there any way because I understand because I know that you understand reason?
Well, here's the
Is
thing:
there?
you know me more than you know Elon, right? And so
I
what I'm
do.
saying is potentially you didn't know him as well as you thought,
That could be
right?
potentially
Maybe he's
true.
not as maybe
He's not as
he
reasonable
looked
as
very
I
principled.
believe.
Yeah, maybe he looked very principled and reasonable, but he's more like a regular dad than he is like a bastion of reason and objectivity. And what
I
I'm
think
saying is, if you look at how he behaves as if he's a regular dad more than he behaves as if he's a bastion of reason.
Actually, he does. I mean, it's just like I mean the reason comes in terms of I guess all of his entrepreneurial ideas and businesses, and it's just like and before that, being center left and really being out of politics and just trying to create as much value as you can in the world, and then to go completely opposite. It's just like to me, I assumed a reason there. Like I did. I assumed that there was reason
And I
there.
think it's reasonable to assume it, but when the evidence changes, then I think you
You
got to change.
absolutely you got to
Yeah,
change with the evidence. Yeah,
right.
and
So like
yeah,
the reasonable is to say, man, my son was persuaded in that direction. I'm not happy about it, but that doesn't mean that my principles change or anything like that. Like that's the reasonable take, right? But then the emotional father take is I gotta fight this no matter what, and that's who he has shown himself to be.
that is. I mean, and I agree that you have to take people at their word, which again is like I have to. What Ben Shapiro wasn't willing to do, I got to be willing to do with Elon.
Right.
It's just like he I got to take him at his word, and I am. It's just like what you say and your actions. I'm certainly valuing, and it's concerning.
And here's the
And to
thing, like
me,
I don't want to come across like I'm saying that Elon is unreasonable. Because people can be very intelligent and very equipped in certain domains of work, and then not particularly impressive in others. And even Jordan Peterson would say that like on the high end of intelligence, when you go up, there's a lot more variation
right,
in terms of like what you're actually good at and what you're not. So, you could have like, for instance, like, take me, like I'm pretty good with like reason and logic and, verbal stuff. But what I'm not good at is like directions. I'm horrible at directions, man. Like I'm probably bottom fifth percentile or something like and when it comes to like directions and knowing where I'm at, I'm just not good at that. I just really don't care about physical space and stuff like that. I'm not a
I
visual
got you.
person. So I think, you could have someone like Elon and say, hey, we need someone who's going to be able to raise money, who's going to be able to put the team together, who's going to be able to inspire people for the future, who's going to be able to work on cool projects and think outside the box and have ideas. And he can come in and do that. Great. But then, if you have him do something else, you might be like, wow, like I was surprised that you're not good and making good decisions in this other context. And like that doesn't mean just because he's not good at other contexts, just because we don't respect him over there, doesn't mean that as a whole he's unintelligent or unreasonable. It just means that, if he's building rockets, then maybe you listen to him. And if he's doing something else, then maybe you don't.